Hey guys, it's Edward. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the nature of entrepreneurship, startups, and my own experience with these projects. While I was at school, I worked on several applications through Swipe Technologies as a contractor. The purpose of Swipe was to be a for-hire contracting company that would build out entire applications for clients. One of those projects was Titan HST, and towards the end of my time at school, Titan bought out Swipe and hired everyone on board to work exclusively on the project. As one of the engineers who helped create Titan, I was given 0.2% of the equity in the company. However, I gave up that position in 2016 when I went to go work for Apple. 2 years later, the company would go on to sign a $300 million contract. And I think this is a situation that quite a few people might actually find themselves in. One minute you think you're making the right decision by pursuing a top-tier tech company. Then you find out later down the road that the company you had just left becomes immensely successful. So I'll give you my thoughts and my considerations of the situation and how I view things. I will talk about what motivates me as an engineer and how that played a role in my decision and whether or not I regretted walking away from Titan and their eventual $300 million contract. At the end, I'll give you a small breakdown of why I think this situation shows that most people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because many of you are young and want to start a company and make millions of dollars with it. And that's great. But I guarantee you that if you're in it for the money, you will most likely fail, and I'll go into reasons why. So, if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and watch this until the very end. It lets me know you enjoy videos like this and want to see more of them. And if you follow me on my socials, you can vote for what topic I cover next. So with that, let's begin. Now, before I begin, it's very important to put the situation into perspective. As of me filming this, Titan as a company hasn't even exited or gone public. So my shares in it are just really paper money. Furthermore, 90% of startups fail for a variety of reasons. This can be the market itself, the founders conflicting amongst one another, lack of prior experience, and a bunch of other reasons. And this is in line with my experience. In my time as a contract engineer at Swipe, I worked on about 10 different projects, but only one, Titan, actually got funding and became a viable company after 3 years of existence. From my perspective, that's a 10% success rate, which is in line with the statistic. Fortunately, Titan really didn't have any of these major problems. In fact, while I was there, Titan was able to secure a contract with the Newport School District. It showed none of the signs of failing or was ever on the verge of faltering. What Titan does is provide emergency two-way communication for schools, students, and faculty. Furthermore, tech in industry and public sector is terribly outdated, and Titan could take this angle to expand into the future, not just into education, but also in general emergency situations. In my mind, Titan solves a real problem and has a very good business doing it. It has an idea and a solution that I think are incredibly solid. But what made this awkward for me was that it wasn't what I wanted for myself. I'm not someone who is passionate about entrepreneurship or the nature of it. Rather, I like being very, very good at executing at whatever I am asked to do. There's a very good idea by Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's personal trainer, the idea of a cooler, a closer, and a cleaner. Now roughly, a cooler is someone who just gets the job done. He is your standard employee that you just pay to just finish a job and move on. A closer is someone who can do the exact same job but with higher quality results. You can think of him as that star player on your team, but he might buckle in the face of adversity. If he's faced with an unknown situation, he might not perform. A cleaner is someone who can perform at a very high level no matter what the situation is, adversity or not. And Tim describes Michael, Kobe, and some of the greatest of all times as cleaners. And in my mind, I'd rather be that. I'd rather be a cleaner. The reason why is that no matter what job you're asked to do, you should be able to execute that faster and better than anyone else. And that satisfies my need for competition. It's in that pursuit that you become a better engineer, a better problem solver, and you're able to build really cool stuff that no one else can. And that's really my motivation. Skills and craftsmanship, not money or lifestyle. And in order to achieve that and do that, I couldn't be building hacky code forever and one-off products. See, I really got fast at writing really bad code. I was the only Android engineer at the time, and I had been independent and self-directed for so long across multiple different projects, I really didn't know what else to do. I was never exposed to any new forms of thinking because I was the only person I could consult. I wasn't learning anything new. I was just doing everything just for the sake of pushing a feature out and moving on. And in fact, my habits were actually pretty bad. I was still copying and pasting code from Stack Overflow and kind of assuming it worked, only going back to look at it when it actually caused a bug. I would also abstract functions and factories into common libraries because a lot of the projects that I was asked to work on were very similar in terms of feature set. So I would literally just copy these features and import them in order to reduce the amount of work I had to do. Sure, it worked and got the client what they wanted, but there's no way in hell that it was actually maintainable. And I think this is a fairly common problem in the industry. Most engineers are used to building new things constantly and rewriting code that they never have to live with. They don't learn how to think about how to scale their efforts or think ahead. Rather, it's more of a go, go, go situation where code serves to write a product and people just kind of forget about it. They just write the same code over and over again because they're very fast at doing it. They become an engineer who sacrifices quality of code for speed. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. After all, not every product needs to be built in a beautiful, clean, scalable architecture, because some products aren't really meant to do that. Their lifespan might be too short or their use case might be too limited. As a result, there really isn't a time or motivation to deep dive into code and really understand what is happening under the hood. And that lack of deep diving can actually stagnate the skills of some engineers. To break through this actually requires you to think about problem solving and to realize your own mistakes, which means living with the code that you have written. And in order for me to do this, I knew I would have to go to a top tier tech company and learn from people better than me. That being said, improving as an engineer is one of the things I could not do at Titan. I needed to learn from people better than me. Now, I could have definitely done this at any point in my career, but at the time, I had set a goal for myself. Since starting university, I did not get any top tier tech internships, and I made it my do or die to get a job at FANG. And luckily, I landed at Apple. Now, looking back at it, it was definitely the right decision to make. As an engineer joining a startup, you're effectively working for minimal pay and zero benefit. And even if the company does well, you're tying up years of your life for a project or a startup that may or may not actually have a successful exit. In that sense, the trade-off between a startup and a larger tech company is less initial pay in exchange for a potential big payday sometime down the road. And there's a lot of shady techniques that a lot of startups actually do. Not that I've been a victim of that. What some startups can do is actually print out a bunch of shares, give you 1,000 shares so it makes you feel like you're getting a lot of them. And then they do a reverse stock split. Essentially, this means that employees who thought they got a lot of shares actually receive shares that are absolutely worthless. In fact, it might be a situation where the blind is leading the blind, where people who have no idea how to scale a system are being asked to scale a system. What's worse was that even on my downtime, I still had to be on call to fix things urgently. I remember that I had taken this trip to Seattle to watch the International and had to skip 4 hours of that event just to handle a bug that appeared in a school demo that Titan was giving that day. I might want to be doing something else, but I really didn't have that choice. It almost felt like I had to embrace a part of the entrepreneurship lifestyle without the incentive. I had to hustle and put in extra time and sacrifice my own free time in order to make it happen. It wasn't my project, and it wasn't something that I was willing to give up a big part of my vacation for. And in the end, it just felt like more work. And that's why I don't really regret my decision. Sure, I could have renegotiated my contract in order to get more equity, but at the same time, I probably would have been miserable. I would have been doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, not expanding my skill set or thinking as a person or as a better engineer. In fact, I was basically sacrificing my own well-being and my own free time for someone else's project that I didn't feel like was really worth giving up my free time for. So, the question boils down to this. Would I give up 3 years of my life for $3 million that I can't use and stagnate as an engineer? Or would I rather have $300,000 that I can use, have a life outside of work, and become a better engineer? I would rather have the latter. For one, until you can actually do stuff with your money, it's just an imaginary number. Second, there's a degree of freedom that I really appreciate. Because I was at college and I was constantly studying and working at the time, I really didn't have much free time to do things, and I was at a point in my life where I really just wanted to try something else. But the story of Titan isn't over, so we'll have to see. I'll update this video if that ever happens. But having gone through all that and having seen what it's like to actually do entrepreneurship, at least on a technical level, I can safely say that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Most people fail 3 to 4 times before they get that one success, or they might just stick with one business for 10, 15 years. And the worst part is during all of that, you will just constantly be bleeding money. You'll be seeing no results, and then you'll be wondering what the hell is going on every single day of your life. Not to mention, you're going to be giving up your vacation and free time like I did in order to try and just keep the business afloat. And because of the amount of effort you spend, you give up your right to a normal life. You give up your right to do anything else, which includes relationships, having free time, spending time with your friends, any kind of socializing outside of work. There's a video where Kevin O'Leary, one of the investors on Shark Tank, describes an interaction with a student. That student has a business and a fiance. But running the business actually costs him all his free time, and he couldn't really see his fiance. So she made an ultimatum, either her or the business. The student asked Kevin O'Leary which one should he pick. Kevin responds actually quite rationally, but quite coldly. He asked the student, which one is easier to replace? And being able to even ask that question and being able to make that decision is really a big part of entrepreneurship. Everything isn't success after success. And as cliche as it sounds, there's a lot of sacrifice and struggles that have to be made. Some of which are actually quite nasty and I don't think most people are capable of actually making. Not to mention, after all that sacrifice, you might not even reap a generous reward at all. And especially if you're just someone trying to chase that quick payday and quick profits, then you're not going to stick with a business long enough to see it succeed or even want it to succeed. You're just going to take the money out and run. There are too many floating factors and too many problems in business that there's no room for greed. You really dedicate yourself to the business's mission and you believe in the value of it, whether for better or for worse. You believe in it to the point where money is actually quite irrelevant. And that's why you hear a lot of these business leaders and founders really not talk about the money. In fact, that's probably the last thing that's on their mind because they were so focused on just trying to keep the business afloat and keep it going. And in the process, they just happen to become rich. And having been on a lot of projects and seeing one success, I can safely say that if you do not have the appetite to pursue your vision to the ends of the earth, you have no business doing entrepreneurship. And yes, there might be a day where you look back and say you should have stuck with it. But, such is life. Not all dreams come true, but all dreams are worth pursuing. And you might find a little bit more about yourself and what you're willing to give up and what you're willing to value. And for me, I value skill, I value building, and I value engineering itself. So that'll do for me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, feel free to connect with me on my socials, where you can vote for what topic you want to see next. And if you want to try and secure the next job offer, you can book me for interview coaching at eachhandtech.com. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.